last week's video, we started the best coaster for every single letter of the alphabet. So far, we did A through M, the first 13 letters, and in today's video, we are going to do N through Z, the last 13 letters. If you haven't already, make sure to check out part 1. I will totally remember to link it in the description and put an info card in the top right. Okay, starting off with N. Now, I thought N would be an absolutely stacked category. I mean, the letter M was the best so far, and like M and N are so similar to each other, I thought it would be close, but N is a lot worse. There are, however, some really good contenders. The 3 that come to mind are New Texas Giant, the first ever RMC iBox, Nefisken, an interesting intimate accelerator, and Nemesis, a well-themed forceful B&M invert. Now, what really is the best is highly debatable. Texas Giant has a crap load of ejector airtime, and both Nefisken and Nemesis are very solid, intense coasters. For me, Nemesis takes the crown as the best end coaster because it has theming. I mean, who doesn't love a B&M invert dug out in the trenches with a dark storyline? I hope the retrack goes well and Nemesis comes back as good as new. Next up is O, and this is a weird letter, but there are some still solid options to pick from. My top 3 really comes down to 3 coasters: Outlaw Run, OCT Thrust SSC 1000, and Orion. Now, many of you are probably asking, what the heck is OCT Thrust SSC 1000? It sounds straight out of some sci-fi movie. If you guys watched part 1, which you most definitely should, we talked about Bullet Coaster being one of the best SNS air launch coasters in the world. This coaster is a mirror image of this, and it's also located in China at Happy Valley, Wuhan. So that's what it is. However, I think it still falls short to Outlaw Run, one of the best wooden coasters in the world. Outlaw Run has a crapload of ejector airtime and some well-sequenced inversions, but from what I have heard, it has gotten a little rough these days. And Orion, well, yeah, it's a solid hypercoaster.
Boy, if you don't get—
So Outlaw Run takes the crown as the best O coaster. Shh, I know Orion is objectively a giga.
Imagination.
Next up is the letter P. Now, there's a lot of good contenders that you probably have heard of before, but I guarantee that most of you have not heard of the winner that I am going to pick. So here are the coasters that you know of that are not gonna win. There's Pantheon, the worst intimate blitz. There's Phantom's Revenge, an amazing ejector airtime machine. There's Pyrenees and Phaetheon, which are both in the top half of B&M inverts. There's Phoenix, an all-around great wood coaster. The list can go on and on and on. There's Pipeline, a guaranteed failure. There's Palindrome, an interesting Kurosawa shuttle coaster. But all of these are not the best P coaster. So what actually is? The best coaster that starts with the letter P is Python in Bamboo Forest. Like, I'm dead ass. If you do not know what this coaster is, it's one of GCI's best creations. This is a terrain coaster built up on the side of the hill, which means it never loses its pacing, like at all. Every element is really good, not great, but it just makes up for a well-rounded Woody. I do not know too much about this, I mean, no one does, but as a hint, we are not done with random Woodies in China. Next up is Q. I thought that Q was going to be a normal letter. Oh, we'll find some coaster to fit it, or so I thought. Q single-handedly has nothing. It is so bare, so minimal, there are only like 2 good contenders. Of course, we would have obviously chosen Chimera, except it's called American Dryer Looping now, so that leaves us with Quantum Leap and Queen Cobra. One of these is a Vekoma SLC, and the other is a Vekoma Giant Inverted Boomerang. So Quantum Leap is the boomerang, so that obviously takes the crown. But it's interesting that we have 2 old gen Vekoma battling it off for a top spot. R is the next letter, and there is definitely a clear winner. I feel like it does not even come close in this category. There is Ride to Happiness, Railblazer, Ravine Flyer 2, and a couple of the 392 roller coasters that are just roller coasters. So in my eyes, the Mach Extreme Pinner is the obvious choice. There is a reason why some people say this is the best coaster in the world. You're already taking a solid layout and then adding a spinning element on top of it. It's an absolutely insane experience. I think Ride to Happiness deserves all the hype it gets. Next up is the letter S, and boy oh boy are we in for a treat. Flashwing helped me compile this list, and no joke, he wrote down at least 30 coasters that start with the letter S. Like, I can go on for 5 minutes naming all these coasters, but let's just look at some of the more quirky ones. You have Shred the Sewers, which looks like an interesting intimate SFX coaster in Moscow, Russia. There is Storm Coaster, which is a really quirky intimate located inside a mall. There is a Soaring with Dragon, a really quirky intimate blitz. There's Starry Sky Ripper, the best B&M flying coaster in the world. But above all of these and the other 30 S coasters I have not named yet is an obvious choice for most people: Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. There's a reason that this coaster is named the #1 coaster in the world year after year after year. It dominated until Iron Gwazi came, but I think this was a really easy choice over all the other coasters that started with the letter S. T is another stacked lineup of coasters. I mean, it's insane. I can go through and name so many solid contenders. There's T-Express, the sister coaster to ElToro. There's Terran, an amazingly themed Intamin Blitz. There's Tidal Twister, an amazingly forceful hang-time-filled masterpiece. Nah, Tidal Twister is straight dog water, but nevertheless, there is something better than all of these, and no one that is not Twisted Colossus or Twisted Timbers. It's Totatus. Totatus looks to be one of the best coasters in the world. I do think it's going to fall short to Batman Gotham City Escape, but that may be the best coaster in the world. Totatus has twice as much airtime moments as Pantheon and just looks like it fixed everything wrong with that coaster, and for these reasons, Totatus is going to be the best T coaster. Unlike S and T, U has a lot less amazing options. I mean, there's still a good selection, but it's not as big as some would think. We can actually go through every valid contender this time. There's Untamed, the RMC hybrid. There's like a million Ultra Twisters, which are those quirky Japanese coasters. There's the upcoming SFX coaster Uncharted. There's Yuko, a Mauer Skyloop, and Untamed, the other one that's definitely worse, located at Canopy Lake Park. Now, out of all of these, there is a pretty clear winner. Most of these rides are supporting cast coasters. The one standout here is Untamed. I mean, this is a great RMC hybrid. It lands itself in the upper tier and shows what you could do with a small layout. This is the Twisted Timbers of Europe, and it's very good. Good enough to be the best U coaster. Next up is V, and this is a very close matchup. It's a really close one between two coasters, but let's talk about those that just missed the cut. There is both Valkyria and Valraven, which are very good B&M dive coasters. There's Revolton, a well-themed family coaster, and there's Viper, a piece of no good aero looper. So the real matchup is between Velocicoaster and Voyage. Now this can really swing either way depending on your personal preference. Voyage is in the top 5 wooden coasters and Velocicoaster is in the top 5 steel coasters. Now for me, I have to choose Velocicoaster. I absolutely adore theming, and Velocicoaster has just this. It's my number 1 right now, and I don't think anyone will take it away for now. While I haven't been on Voyage yet, I don't like wooden coasters in general, so I think it's pretty easy for me to pick Velocicoaster as the best V coaster. W has an amazing selection of coasters, despite it being the 7th least used letter in the English language. Of course, there are some amazing RMCs like Wildcat's Revenge, Wildfire, Wonder Woman, and the other Wonder Woman, but none of these make the cut. There are some classics like Weiner Looping and Wodan Timber Coaster, yet those don't make the cut either. Remember when I said that we weren't done with irrelevant Chinese wooden coasters? Here we are. The winner of the best W coaster is Wood Coaster at Night Valley. Now I have to admit, Python and Bamboo Forest is probably the second best GCI because Wood Coaster is the best GCI. This has to be single-handedly the best terrain coaster ever. The area around it is so green and this coaster just hugs the hillside perfectly. You are literally flying through a tropical jungle the whole entire time. And you want to know something cool about it? It had a quad down before Elrod. This might be the best wooden coaster in the world, but no one really knows about it. However, it wins for the best W coaster. These last 3 letters X, Y, and Z aren't used in the English language that much, but is still apparent in the coaster names. I mean, they still have solid options, but it's just not as deep as some of the other lineups. So starting off with X, it's a pretty obvious choice. There's Accelerator, the first Intamin accelerator, there's X Coaster, a Mauer Skyloop, there's X Flight, a B&M wing coaster, and of course, there is X2, an aerodynamic 4-dimensional coaster. Now if you watched the first part, I did say that the 4-dimensional coaster was going to dominate this list. Ejinaika won, Dynaconda won, and now X2 is taking the crown for the best X coaster. I personally don't like X2 because of the roughness, but it's an insane experience that should not be ignored. The letter Y is another one of those weaker categories that definitely has a clear winner. The options here are a Jubilant clone named Yukon Quad that looks pretty good, there's Yankee Cannonball, a classic PTC wood coaster, there's an Aero Mine Train called Yagiyama Cyclone, and obviously reigning above all of these there is Yukon Striker. Depending on who you are and what you value, Yukon Striker is definitely one of the best B&M dive coasters in the world. I mean, it is the tallest and has a pretty solid layout, so you can't really go wrong here. It is still a one-trick pony though. Finally, we are on to the letter Z. And this letter does not have many coasters, but it has all well-known coasters. And like Y, there's also a very clear winner, but here are the contenders. We have Zadra, a RMC hybrid masterpiece, there's Zeus, a rough but interesting wood coaster, there's Zambezi Zinger that is showing off GCI's use of Titan Track, and there's Zippin' Pippin, a classic woody that is a great ride. So it's 3 wood coasters that are like okay against an RMC hybrid masterpiece. In fact, it may be the best RMC on the planet. I think there is a very clear winner here. Zadra obviously takes the crown as the best Z coaster. That's all for today's video, guys. I hope I introduced you to some pretty unique coasters. Let me know if you agree with my decisions in the comments section below, and as always, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.